and I found
Yeah.
a little film canister filled with pot, and like I freaked. And so I drove to the school. I said, "What class is Jackie in?" And she was, and they said she was doing math. And I just ran up the stairs. I found her classroom. I looked; they're all got their heads buried in their desks. They're doing a test. I opened the door and I went, "Jackie, come here."
Jim Breuer.
Jim Breuer.
Jim Breuer.
Jim Breuer.
Jim Breuer.
Hey, this is Jim Breuer.
Well, hello there, Michael. Good to
What's up,
see
man?
you. Good to see you.
Yeah, likewise, dude.
I'm super excited about today because we have Howie Mandel coming on, and it's when I was young, there was a lot of comedy in my life. Like my first big funny stuff that I would watch was Lauren Hardy. I loved Lauren Hardy. I loved the slapstick, the Three Stooges. I loved Abbott and Costello. So by the time I was in high school, the big comedians that were on television were Richard Pryor would have an HBO special. George Carlin would have an HBO special. And I think Eddie Murphy. Those were the big like monster comedy specials. But during that time too, there were a lot of comics being shown on the Young Comedians special. There was Rodney Dangerfield had the special where Dice and Sam Kinison, Rita Redner, Jerry Seinfeld, Roseanne. There were a lot of big stars that I remember watching Damon Wayans when he was first starting. And one of them, I remember my brother, my late brother Ed, we'd be at his house and we watched this comedy special, and I don't know which one it was, but Howie Mandel came out and he was a lunatic. Howie Mandel was a lunatic on stage. He was so like quirky and goofy and funny, and he would have props. He's nothing that you would see today. I don't know if you see Howie Mandel today, but he would make my brother laugh so hard. The two of us were howling. Watch her. He would do this whole thing like, what? You know, what? He had like this childish demeanor that was so. It was so charming and lovable, and it was pretty amazing. So for me, I watched Howie Mandel transform through the years into what he is today. You know, my kids, they'll watch America's Got Talent and they just know Howie Mandel as one of the judges. If you don't watch, like they don't know.
Yeah.
Why would they know? And then you have my mother-in-law whose big thing was Deal or No Deal. That was a huge show. And he was so good on that show. I mean, he just had to host it, but he was so good on that. So yeah, I'm pretty excited to talk with Howie Mandel. I met him for the first time, I believe, I think we were at the Montreal Comedy Festival, and I saw him for a split second. And I have to say, I was touched that he knew me. He said, "Hey, how are you, Jim?" Again, he's like, "I love listening to you on Howard." And this was, I don't know, probably 2017, 18, somewhere on it. So in the teens of 2000s, and I would go on Howard a lot, and tell my stories of life and my dad and wherever. And he's like, God, you make me laugh on there. You're so funny on there. Oh, thank you. And then the second time I saw him was a much more intimate setting. It was at Joe Rogan's mothership. And he was just sitting in the green room with all these young guys. And it was so fascinating to me because I walk in this room at the mothership, and there's young comedians back there, and they're all like regulars at the club. And then there's Howie Mandel kind of sitting in the corner, and none of them were really talking to him. He was just kind of sitting there, and I'm like, I was like, do you guys realize what is just sitting right there? And I immediately went to Howie and I started feeling him out. Just like, hey man, I gotta say, I love what you do, but man, you came up in a time in the stand-up that you did, and then we just started talking a little bit of stand-up and stuff like that. And I remember him saying the place reminded him of like back in the old days. I guess he would, wherever he would work out, I would assume the Comedy Store, maybe something like that. That's something I can ask him about. But yeah, I'm pretty hopped up for him. I think it's very cool to have him here today. So,
Hi,
how you doing, Howie?
I love you, Jim. Thank you for
Oh no,
on.
no, I love you more, man. I love you more. I think I love you more. Where are you right now?
In my office in LA.
Ah.
In LA.
In LA. Okay. So first of all, thanks for coming on. This is a huge honor for me. And I'm very thankful that you did this. And right out of the gate, I want to tell you, out of all the things that you've accomplished and continue to accomplish, and all the things that you put out there, entertainment and all that, the thing that I'm actually more impressed by anything else that maybe a lot of people don't know about is the fact that you've been married 40 years.
44.
That's huge.
44.
44 years. I mean, that when you talk to someone in our industry or any industry, especially what you've done, I mean, for you to go the ladder you did and still hold on to the same person that you've been married to all those years, I look at that more of as a much deeper respect.
Have you not been married for a long time?
No, I have been. We're 31. We're going to be 31 years, and she's. I know, but that's why I get excited when I talk to someone, especially in the business, and they're like, "Yeah, I'm still the same." Usually, it's like, "Yeah, it's my second wife. Yeah, it's my third, fourth wife. Yeah, there's a couple guys that I know that blew up, and then like, yeah, it didn't really work out. I'm with this one. I'm like, I can see it happen. But you're 44 years. And same woman from day one. That is absolutely huge, bro. So I want to tell you how much I respect you for that.
Well, thank you. But you should tell her how much you respect her, because I'm hanging on for dear life. I mean, I'm the luckiest guy alive, because it's not easy. It's not. If I could leave me, I would. So she has been a rock and just the most amazing thing. She's the reason I have any success. She's the reason when I first came out here to Los Angeles in 77, I wanted to go home. She wouldn't let me go home. She wouldn't let me. She's the one that prodded me to keep going. She's the one that when I wanted to quit the business in 2005, she's the one that made me take Deal or No Deal. She's the one that has been, if I've had one constant cheerleader, which I think everybody needs in their life, because sometimes you give up on yourself. I've been really lucky to have Terry. So, and she's given me an amazing family, and now I have grandkids, and I'm really, really old.
You're not that old. What?
I'm going to be 70.
I know you're. I know you're going to be 70, and I got to say that kind of blew me away.
Really? Find my hairline. It's not even in this room.
No, I know that, but you look happy. I say happy.
Oh, you know what? I'm doing good, but happy is not a word that goes with me. I've been really open about my mental health struggles, and as I sit here with you today, I am incredibly medicated and looked after. And happiness is something that I constantly, try to claw at, just being okay, let alone happy.
No, I can imagine that. I deal with that on a different level too. And just like you said, even with marriage, we're 31 years, but we've probably had our toughest the last couple. The older they got, that it really started taking the hits to the body and all that. And
How old are your kids?
the oldest one is 25. So we have 25, all girls, 25,
What?
22,
Yeah, there you
yeah.
go.
And then the youngest one is 19. Um, and so, yeah, you go through the struggles of, and I don't know what your wife does, but mine is nowhere near the business, nowhere near. And I think that has been kind of my balance, where I'm always the first to go, oh, maybe. And she like, take it down a level. I don't like the energy here. I don't like this person. Well, yeah, but they're offering. I don't care what they're offering. This is not right for the family. I'm like, but thank God, like you said, she's been my rock.
Well, my
So
wife is an agent, so she is close, but not my agent. But she's only become an agent in the last, well, only, but about 15 years. Before, she
oh
had nothing
wow.
to do with the business before that, but she's always had her own business. She's a smart lady who
Yeah.
knows how to make money and understands life and needs a career of her own. But raising kids, I have two daughters and a son. My oldest daughter, who I do my podcast with, Howie Mandel Does Stuff, she almost killed me. Going through from 14 to 21 was a fucking nightmare, and especially in Hollywood, it was a nightmare. My daughter, this is Jackelyn, the one, she's married now with two kids, but when
Yeah.
she was 17 or 16 in high school, that they made like three or four movies about her friends. One being Alpha Dog. I don't know if you ever saw that one with Justin Timberlake, where the guy killed the other kid because he owed him drug money. Those were the people that went to school and were my daughter was around. I can't tell you how many times I came home and was out at 2 a.m. Breaking into a house and physically pulling her out of a it was just a crazy time. Crazy.
Do you do you think that's the thing that people don't see is the human side of people. They see the star, they see the guy with the money, they see all that stuff, and that's all. And a lot of times they don't see the human side that we kind of keep back here. And I noticed on a level, and I'm assuming that it's really hard for your kids because they're growing up in dad's shadow, and we don't think that's a big deal, but the other kids, uh it's a lot, plus money. If I had some money, like I
Oh,
realized
no,
I realized
I don't think that was a
well you
problem. You think that was a problem for your kids? For
Well, yeah, I think. Well, I definitely spoiled them. I mean, when my kid, the first time I heard them say, "Can you tell the cleaning lady to?" I didn't grow up with cleaning ladies. I grew up very blue collar. Like both my parents were out of World War II, and so I was like, "What did you just? What are you talking about, Regina?" She's like, "Yeah, tell her not to fold the clothes and put it in the right." I'm like, "Oh my god." But we created this monster. But I grew up they grew up in an area where everyone did very well, and there was a lot of drug issues. There was a lot of issues, and part of me thinks, how do they do better than their parents? And that's a pressure. how do they walk in their parents' shoes? How do they become their own individual rather than like, oh, you're so and so's kid or you're so and so. Like that's what mine went through. I'm not saying that's what yours went through.
Listen, there is a bit of that, but more importantly, my wife and I are both come from lower middle class. I grew up in an apartment. I shared a room with my brother. She didn't come from money either. We did good, and yes, the kids are spoiled, and I have some funny stories about my kids being spoiled. But more importantly, I thought that I would grow up, have children, and teach them about life. But what has happened is I grew up, had children, and they teach me about life. Like I didn't realize the pressure. I didn't have a friend in the world as a kid. Everything I've ever been punished for, expelled for, gotten in trouble for is what I end up getting paid for in my career.
Yep.
And especially being a girl, girls are really mean. And it's really hard for them to fit in. It's really hard for them to, it was never for me about looks or fashion or whatever. So the pressures and just to be with the right group or just to be accepted and just to be that it's amazing that anybody really survives that. So, this adage of shit happens, a lot of shit happens, and they're not equipped. They being humans, we are not equipped at 15 and 16, and especially, I think it's especially harder being a girl. I grew up with a brother. I didn't know anything about girls, but I think that being everything that I encountered is magnified just by being female. It's more dangerous being a female. It's just, it just is. I don't know if I'm saying anything that is
no, you're right.
wrong. It's just more dangerous. It's just, you're more of a target. You're more expected of you. There is more, if you're a big fat guy, you'll probably get chosen to be on the football team and be the center. If you're an overweight girl, I think life is going to be harder for you. Not even in your own mind, but just socially, it's just going to be harder for you.
No, you're right.
And there seems to be more of a need for females to have acceptance. And this is weird for somebody to say, like you and I entered show business and have a need to have people we don't give a fuck about or never saw or never will meet like us. And that's kind of magnified when you're just a girl in your high school or and I didn't understand. I didn't know how to deal with it. And I ended up doing stupid shit. Like I would monitor her and I knew she was around these kids. Right. One day I went into her, I've told this story before, but I went into her room because I was always worried that, she was into the wrong shit. And I found a film, a 35 millimeter, a little film canister filled with pot, and like a freaked. And so I drove to the school, and I found out. I said, "What class is Jackie in?" And she was, and they said she was doing math. And I ran past the desk, and the people were going, "Miss Mandel, you can't." And I just ran up the stairs, ran down the hall. I found her classroom. I looked, they're all got their heads buried in their desks. They're doing a test. I opened the door and I went, "Jackie, come here." And she goes, what are you doing, Dad? What are you doing? I said, "Come here." And she comes out of her desk. She's humiliated publicly. I'm not that helpful. And I grab her arm and I say, "You're coming with me." And I take her down the hall, down the stairs, through the parking lot, into the car. She goes, "What the hell are you doing, Dad? What the hell?" I go, "You will see. You will see, young lady." And I take her to I get her to the house. She goes, "This is the most humiliating day of my life." I go, "You're going to have to answer a question." And she goes, "What's the question?" I take her into her room and I pull out the canister. I open the canister. I hand it to her and I go, "What is this? What the fuck is this?" "That's my fish food." And I went, "Oh." So I drove her back to the school and she didn't talk to me for 2 weeks. But I just wanted it almost killed me. I'm such an idiot.
Oh no, I've embarrassed myself multiple times. And I found too the hardest part is when they start dating.
It's funny you should say that because when boys came over, I said, "You can't close the door." And she didn't listen to me. and she closed the door. So I went and got my tools, and I got a power. I took the door off, and she didn't have a door for 6 months. I removed a door from her room. She had no fucking door on her room.
We did that. My wife does that. My wife was like, that's it. The thing. My wife would take out the hinges, pull the door down, bring him downstairs. That's it. Now, we asked you multiple times. You can't listen. Now you don't have a door. And yeah, she spent the whole summer without the door. I love it.
What in line?
And that's
is this the oldest one now?
Yes. She's
too. It's the oldest one. My younger one, easier, or knew how to hide it more from me.
Oh yeah, our middle one's the hider, and the younger one is the same way, but just a little goofier with her approach. So
my middle one is a boy, and we used to take the doors off our daughters and put 3 doors because hopefully he would get laid and I wouldn't hear anything. I did have a double standard, but my 2 girls are married and with kids. My son, who is 35 now, has, I tell everybody, a model rescue service. He has he takes in wounded models and nurses them back to health, and then releases them out into the wild before they can get I vicariously live through his Instagram.
God bless him.
Yes,
great
Alex
times.
Mandel.
So I have questions for you.
Good.
And especially because the first time I said you, in my opinion, you are one of the first that came out as a comedian. Yes, Robin Williams did and all that, but the way you transitioned, because when you first came out, first of all, you made me and my brother laugh. It was one of the best moments I ever had with my brother. God rest his soul. He's passed on, but we would laugh so hard. Your first time you came out, I don't know if I ever laughed that hard in my life. You were so silly, so goofy. I remember watching the Johnny Carson one, and the whole time I couldn't figure out if Johnny was like, I'm not really sure he was trying to figure out it. And you just held your ground, and you were so damn funny. But it wasn't just, it was like slapsticky, funny, goofy. And to transition from that to serious acting, I thought was a monster huge move that not a lot of people have ever pulled off. And I that was so impressive to me.
I didn't do it purposely, either one of those things. So, I started stand-up comedy on a dare. And when in the mid 70s, when comedy clubs started popping up, I had never seen live stand-up besides, the Tonight Show and things like that. So when I got up, and I started in Toronto, Canada, at a place called Yuck Yucks, and that was a dare. And the dare was, and I still don't to this day, I don't think ahead. That's why I say whatever got me in trouble as a kid serves me as an adult. ADHD, which I've been diagnosed with, and all these other things are issues where you are incredibly impulsive and you don't think of ramifications.
Yeah.
So when the MC said, does anybody want to try stand-up from the audience? We'll do an amateur hour. Somebody near me said, you should go up. And I went, okay, without thinking of, prep, without thinking of this could be a career, this could be a life change. And if I thought anything was funny, the only thing that I thought was funny is that somebody was going to say, ladies and gentlemen, Howie Mandel. There's no reason to say, ladies and gentlemen, Howie Mandel. Howie has nothing. But that's kind of funny to just be introduced.
Yeah.
And there's no fucking reason for me to be there. And that's as far as I got. It's like, ladies and gentlemen, here's my accountant. Ladies and gentlemen, it doesn't really mean it, and so that's what I did. I didn't prepare. And what happened was they went, ladies and gentlemen, Howie Mandel, and I walked out. And if you've never been on a stage before, I'd never, been a performer or anything, the spotlight just is, burning holes in your retina. You don't know where you are in this bubble of haze, and especially in the mid 70s where everybody's smoking in the club, it's just this smoke. And you look down, if you look down from the light, there's usually a front row or a front couple of rows that you can see. And there's just these strangers just looking up at you. And there's nothing more terrifying than not one identifiable face looking at you like, what the fuck are you going to do now?
Yeah, that's right.
And what happened was, and to be totally honest, I got my adrenaline started to rush with fear. And it was like, oh my God, this is humiliating. When people talk about the fucking nightmare where you show up in a party in your underwear, you go, what the fuck? This is the most humiliating, but it's not it feels like a nightmare. And my adrenaline, and if you watch the old tapes, I started going, okay.
Yes.
And that was me panicking, and I was panicking, but I wasn't trying to be funny. That wasn't an act. That was just me going, okay, all right, okay. And my panic kind of became contagious to the audience. They could see I was panicking, and out of my nervous energy, they started laughing. They started going, this guy's panicking. So I'm going, okay. And they start laughing. And when they started laughing, I didn't understand I'd never been on stage. So I started going, what?
Yes.
What?
Yes.
What? So I'm going, okay, all right.
Yes, yeah.
And I also, I've told this before, but I also, because I've always suffered from OCD, I used to go out, even in the 70s when I was young, I'd have surgical gloves I'd buy all the time, and I'd have them in my pocket for when I was out in public to go to public restrooms, so I wouldn't touch anything. I wear gloves out in public because I'm so fucked up. So, but I'm going, okay, and then I just had my hands in my pocket because I didn't know where to put them, and then I pulled out a rubber glove and then go, okay, what's it? And for whatever reason, I never did it before. I just started pulling it over my head. I pulled it over my head when I was breathing. The fingers are going up and down, up and down. Laughing even more. So I just held the edges and I blew it up, and it popped off my head, and they roared with laughter. And I had enough wherewithal to think, oh, that's a closer. Good night.
Closer.
And I ran off the stage, and Mark Breslin, who was the owner of the club, said, you got to come back tomorrow. I go, why? He goes, do it again. I go, do what? What the do you want me to do? He goes, do what you did. And I went, what did I do? And I just started showing up to these clubs. It was great. I didn't think I'd be a comedian with nothing planned. I was doing a lot of crowd work at that time, and things. And then Mike Binder, Mike.
Yeah, I just did something with Mike. Yeah.
So Mike had dropped in on the comedy club. Him and Dave Coulier were in Detroit, and Yuck Yucks, that place was really happening in Toronto, and they used to drive up and play the club there, and I met him. I went down to California on a business trip. It had nothing to do with show business, but I had to have a meeting there. I was doing some other work, and he said, I can get you on at the Comedy Store. He was Kid Comedy at the time.
Kid Comedy. Yeah.
Yeah, and he got me. He was like one of the youngest people to be performing comedy, and he got me on. And Mitzi saw me, and there was this other guy in the audience called George. His name is George Foster, and he was doing a comedy game show called Make Me Laugh. And he said, "Do you want to do television?" And I went, "This is
oh my god, that's right. I forgot about Make Me Laugh. Oh my god, I forgot how freaking. That's right. Damn, you've been in my life my whole life. Yes.
I didn't know what it was. And he said, would you like to do television? I said, yeah. He goes, come down tomorrow to KTLA, and it's on Sunset Boulevard in Hollywood. I've never been even in a studio. I went down there, and he goes, okay, I'm going to clock you for 60 seconds. Try to make my secretary laugh. And I would just go, okay. Like, all right, dude. And I just throw out stupid things. And you want to hear something weird? Just whatever was. He goes, that's really funny. Are you around tomorrow? And I said, yeah. And then, so the next day he had me, I guess one of the comics dropped out, and they shoot 5 shows in one day that run for a week. They didn't run in Canada, so I didn't know the show, but I shot 5 episodes of Make Me Laugh, and then had my meeting that I was supposed to have that has nothing to do with show business. And I flew home, and it continued in the business that I was doing in Toronto. And then I started getting calls. I guess it aired, and I wasn't pursuing. Once a week, I would drop in on Yuck Yucks. And I promise you, even today, if I was a janitor and for 2 times a week, I could just drop in on the club, I found it very therapeutic.
Yeah.
I love that adrenaline. I
Yeah.
still am an adrenaline junkie. I go, when I'm in any city, I'll find like the highest the roller coaster, the fastest. I'll ride a roller coaster. I just like to. It makes me feel like I'm in the moment. I need to be scared to death. And now also because I'm so medicated,
Yes.
I have no emotion or anything. So I look for an adrenaline rush. I just
Yeah.
need to feel fear or something. I just want to feel something. So I look for those things. So I started getting calls. I got called by the Merv Griffin show, and they had seen me, and the Mike Douglas show. So I flew down and I did Merv Griffin, Mike Douglas. I had nothing, and I could do that voice that became Bobby.
Bobby voice,
Was,
yeah.
but it's but basically what it is, it's the same thing as when you take a balloon and you blow up a balloon, and then you the nipple of the balloon and you stretch it and it goes. So I'm pushing air. I'm not doing falsetto. It's just if I lose my voice totally, I can still do that voice. So I did that because I was choking as a little kid, and that's where I found that voice. So I used to do it in class and around. So a couple times I thought it sounded like a baby, so I used to be really just say the C word as many times with that voice as possible to try to get a laugh. But I got called to do the Mike Douglas and Merv Griffin show, and I went down and I did them. I don't know. I don't think I was that good, but Gene Simmons called me. He saw me on Mike Douglas. Gene Simmons, and Kiss was fucking huge.
Yeah.
It was like 79, 78, 79. He called me and he goes, and Gene fucking Simmons, Kiss, calls me. I know you should be you're a rock star yourself.
Yeah.
I love your music.
I'm a meta guy. Okay.
He calls me and he goes, I saw you on Merv Griffin. You're really funny. I go, thank you, man. I really appreciate it. He goes, would you like to be an opening act for my girlfriend? I go, okay. I always just say, okay, just like I got up on stage. He says, okay, so do you have these weeks open? I had nothing. So I go, yeah. And then at the end of the conversation, I go, who's your girlfriend? And he goes, Diana Ross. And I became Diana Ross's opening act for like 42 shows in Vegas. And they hated me. I mean, the audience hated me. And I didn't have, I have a picture of myself wearing a sports jacket. You could see the sweat. I'm just that the audience hated me and didn't want me. And I didn't have really, but Gene and Diana Ross used to look through the curtains and just giggle. You could hear the giggling in the room of those. And then after a week, I got called into her office thinking, oh, they're going to fire me. I hope they fire me. I hope this is a fucking torture. And she said, you're so funny. I'm holding you over for another 2 weeks. And it was horrible. And I'm still friends with her. She invited me to her 75th birthday and everything. And then, I got George Carlin's wife saw me on one of those, Brenda Carlin. Yeah. And Brenda Carlin hired me for the 6th annual Young Comedian Special.
Yes.
And on the 6th annual Young Comedian Special, it was me, Jerry Seinfeld, Richard Lewis, and Harry Anderson, and it was hosted by the Smothers Brothers. And I did that at the Roxy.
Oh, that is the one that just absolutely floored my brother and I.
That's the one I threw flour in my face.
Yeah, you threw the flour in the face. And
I had nothing.
To this day, I remember watching my brother just howling. He couldn't catch his breath. And you're on the floor. At one point,
going on the stand up.
And oh my God, it was so funny.
But so I did that, the HBO special. And then the next day after that aired, that blew me up. I would go out. I did it myself. I learned from Gallagher was four-walling theaters.
Yes.
And nobody was calling me, but I realized that I started getting calls from Vegas and things like that. And I said, well, I understand business. So I started renting like arenas and places myself and I hired a guy I knew how to put ads. I come from retail. I came from the carpet business at the time. So I was playing 10,000 seats. I was playing 8,000 seats at that time, like in 80 and 90. I just blew up.
And you're
then
renting the place, so it's all you're figuring out. All you don't have to worry about an agent. You have to worry about anything. It's all you're the big God.
I hired a guy. I hired this kid, Andy Nolman,
So
that
smart.
I knew from Montreal. Andy Nolman, I hired him to be my promoter. Like he was the guy that was in charge of, I'd give him the budget and he would rent the room and then place the ads and everything. So we sold out so much that this guy Gilbert in Montreal had this little tiny Gisperir, which is a little French festival. He ended up hiring Andy because he said he wanted to expand it into English and he liked what he did with me. And that became Just for Laughs.
Wow.
That became the Just for Laughs festival.
Wow.
I started a lot of things. Michael Nesmith saw me and thought it was really funny. And he brought me to his house. Like this happened all by accident. He brought me to his house in Monterey. And he said, let's do things where my friends will do music videos, and then you and Charlie Fleischer introduce these bands and then talk about the song and the video they did. And this is going to be a pilot for Nickelodeon. And we did that as a pilot. And if you go Google it, and you could maybe put up a clip of this, it was called Pop Clip. They handed in pop clips and they said, no, this is not, it was for Paramount. This is better than a pilot. We could do a whole network like that. And that was the pilot for MTV.
Wow.
I was at the burgeoning of like all these accidental things where it became MTV. It became and just people seeing me and allowing me to do things. Then I saw that everybody in the 80s who was doing okay as a stand-up comic.
Yeah.
The next iteration was a sitcom. Right. The first that I was aware of that happened to out of the Comedy Store was Freddie Prinze, who did Chico and the Man. And then after that, there was Robin did Mork and Mindy. And then Billy Crystal did Soap. And all these people were moving in and getting sitcoms. So I got an agent. The agent set up a meeting for me at MTM, which is the Mary Tyler Moore Company. And they were famous for Mary Tyler Moore, The Odd Couple, Bob Newhart Show, all these
huge.
But they were huge shows. But they were also veering into, they hadn't launched yet. They were shooting two dramatic series, giant ensemble, one being Hill Street Blues and the other being St. Elsewhere. So I met with a woman named Molly Lapata because I said, I think it's time for me to do a sitcom. And she said, well, can you act? I said, well, I don't know if I can act, but I don't know. I can be myself in a sitcom. Right. She goes, read this. And she gave me some sides to read. And she goes, that's very good. And the sides I read were not funny, didn't make sense, so out of context, not a joke, nothing. She says, that's very good. Come down the hall. And I go down the hall and I go in this room. And there's a guy by the name of Bruce Paltrow, who turns out to be Gwyneth's dad, and Mark Tinker, which is his father was married to Mary Tyler Moore, and huge, some other people. Huge. I didn't know them. And I read, and halfway through the reading, and went, that's good, fine, enough, thank you. And I left. And this is on a Friday. I get a call in an hour when I go home. Could you go meet with Brandon Tartikoff? He wants to hear you read that. So Brandon Tartikoff was the president of NBC. He's responsible for all the classic shows. I mean, he put Seinfeld on the air. I go down to NBC, this is on a Friday, and I go into Brandon Tartikoff's office, and there's Bruce there and Mark there and Tom Fontana, who created a lot of great shows with Barry Levinson. And I start reading that, and they go, oh, that's very good. All right, we'll see you Monday. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm coming back for a call back on Monday. But Monday, when I got home, my agent called me and said, congratulations, you got it. I go, what did I get? And apparently St. Elsewhere had been shooting for a week, and they've been looking at dailies and stuff, and they didn't like the way some of it was turning out. So they recast the part of Fiscus, and I replaced the guy.
Yeah.
I replaced the guy by the name of, he ended up getting an Academy Award nomination, David Paymer. Yeah. David Paymer played Billy Crystal's brother in Mr. Saturday Night.
Right.
But I showed up on the set, and there was Billy Daniels and Denzel Washington. Denzel wasn't Denzel then, but I mean, he was still. But and I said to Bruce, I said, shouldn't I go to school or take an acting class? And he goes, no, you just entered the best college that you could ever. And for 6 years, I ended up on St. Elsewhere. And that was because it was, there was 12 of us in the ensemble. I only worked 2-3 days a week. And then on the weekends, I was out doing stand-up comedy. So that was a great time for me. But I kind of fell into everything that I've done. I've never pursued a path. I've just fallen into it.
That's amazing. So one quick question. What was the business about that you were meeting that you end up doing?
Go get it. I'll show you. So I'm always been an entrepreneur. My entrepreneurial spirit outweighs my
comedy,
my show business. I have this office here. I'm in real estate and things like that. So I had this. It was called the Uncle Sherman Flasher doll. I thought I found this novelty item one day when I was in Florida, and it was this little stuffed doll. I have one. I'm trying to find somebody here that could bring it in. Here it is. There it is. This is exactly. I have one because this is the reason. This is the reason for my career. So I'm in Florida and I see this, and it's a little guy in his trench coat. Can you see that?
Yeah.
And if you open his trench coat, you can see his walls and everything. So it's an Uncle Sherman. Anyways, it's an Uncle Sherman Flasher doll. This is 1977. I thought this is funny, but not only did I think it was funny, I thought I could make $1 million with this. I was always like like a Ferris Bueller. I'm trying to.
You were the first Shark Tank before it even existed.
Yeah. So, but most of it just tanked. There was no sharks.
No sharks.
There was no sharks. So my idea was, I found the manufacturer. I bought one, and I looked at it wasn't to have fun with it. I looked at the tag, and they were made in California. And I was going to meet. I phoned and I said, I'm with Mandel Industries in Canada, and I would like the rights to the Uncle Sherman doll for Canada. And I will have the rights, and I'll distribute this right across Canada. It'll be a fun little, these were the days of Pet Rock and things like that. So I thought this would be the next.
That's right.
Yes. So this would be the next big, stupid novelty gift. And anyway, I was able to secure the rights to the Uncle Sherman doll. And then what happened was I ordered a lot of these. And when they got to the border at Detroit, they never let them over the border because they said that it was pornographic. So I had all these things, and I had to go down and I couldn't claim the dolls. So then my next idea, and the reason I had the meeting, I went down there and I had a meeting with the manufacturer, and I said, why don't you ship the dolls and then ship the penises and nuts separately, and I'll hear them in Canada. So I got like hundreds and hundreds, maybe even 1,000 dolls got shipped to Canada.
Yeah.
And then cases of all these things were in cases. All these nuts and dicks were in cases. They didn't get over the border. I couldn't explain what these were to the people. I mean, you could see. I don't know if you could see it good on.
Yeah, here. You can see it really good.
Yeah, I know there it is. So I had cases. Good? Yeah. I had to go to California and have a meeting because I didn't want to pay for the dicks and nuts, and I was having a very high level meeting about how I fit over the border. So that's why I was in. So I was going down there for something funny, not to be funny.
Not to be funny. And what happened to my career, and it brings it back to full circle when you're talking. My wife came with me, and I was so silly. And so, I would go in the stores and just buy a little prop and hold it up and, just make a noise and do and it was about being silly. And my wife would stand at the back of the Comedy Store, and they didn't know that was my wife or my girlfriend at the time. And I was hated. I was gonna ask. I bet you at that period of time, some guys are really hating on you.
I think they always have. I never garnered the respect. I talk about one of the most hurtful times is like all through Letterman's run. I can't tell you for how many years I was a punchline on the top 10 list, and we'll make them sit through a Howie Mandel concert. And it used to kill me because, it's just I didn't want to, I didn't care if you didn't like me or didn't follow me or didn't get me. I just didn't want to be the joke. I talked to Scott Carrot Top about this all the time.
He used to get that all the time. He used to really, guys,
still,
those things really bothered me because at the end of the day, entertainment is entertainment. If you make people laugh, you make people laugh. And that I know Scott, they'd really go at, and it used to really piss me off. And especially I won't say who they were.
Scott, think about this. Scott I think he's in his 12th or 15th year in Vegas, having his own room, selling out. He's a success. People like it. So for anybody in our business to use that as a punchline, you should only be that punchline. You should only be that successful. It takes as much wit to not only come up with the material, the joke. He engineers and builds his own little props. He creates a whole show. He's actually a very smart, brilliant, nice guy who's incredibly successful. But it kind of hurts when people in your own industry are, and they always have been. The monologists have always frowned upon the impressionist or the prop comic or the silly comic. When it takes as much work. And I always say that, the luck of the draw is
you guys
when
lose a dog?
Oh, look who just walked in.
Did you lose a dog?
Come in.
You lost a dog.
Look.
I found this dog.
Somebody's lost dog just
Oh,
walked
dude,
in.
I was just gonna go see him. He was right in my backyard. What's up, Paul? He was in Naples. He was right in my backyard.
Naples, Nate, what's up?
I'm
How you doing,
I'm on Jim's podcast. It's Pauly Shore dropping in.
I know
with a
Pauly,
lost
man.
dog.
He was he was in Naples with Steve, right?
Yes.
Yeah. He said he speaks
Steve.
very.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah. This
Pauly
guy
been through the ringer.
Pardon me?
Pauly's
Him
been
too.
through the ringer too. Yeah, he's been through the ringer too.
I was just talking about. Hey, let me give you a hug, buddy. I'm just talking about. Can he turn his head any further away?
I didn't know because you're Howie Mandel. You don't have to touch.
But his mother is responsible for my career, number one. But number two, I was talking about how when I started out, because I'm a silly prop comic, and so Scott, we became the joke. And comics are harder, and you had a hard time. He had a hard time too, where he created a character, the Weasel, and became a huge star, and he was doing movies. Yeah. But then you had a hard time too. I've seen you talk about it. You did that documentary. Yeah. And I don't know why it's our own people in our own business that give us the hardest time when I always say on AGT that I don't think that we get that even when a comic comes on, especially on AGT, they don't get the credit that they deserve because you follow a guy who's hanging upside down, lights himself on fire, and is juggling because he's in a circus family. And then me or Pauly walk out and we just talk. Right. And you go, and people kind of look at you. Don't understand. You don't understand why that's nothing. And I remember that Jerry Seinfeld once was accepting an award at the Aspen Comedy Festival. And he had a great speech. I won't do it justice, but he said, comics aren't used to getting awards. No. The actors get awards. And think about this. An actor will get picked up at his house. Somebody will take you someplace. They'll dress you. They'll comb your hair. They put a piece of tape on the floor. They say, stand here. And they say, read this, the thing that I wrote. Right. And they shoot it and they go, let's try from another angle. And they read that again. And they read that again. They read that again from all different angles. Then somebody goes and cuts it and makes it look like it flows, like it really happened in that order. And then we watch them on the night of the Academy Awards and we go, they're fucking brilliant. I wonder how they're thinking politically. I want to follow them. Whereas a comedian creates his own character, writes his own script, and performs from middle to end. And I always felt like we were, even in our industry, we were dissed. This is probably not everybody. Listen, I did the Tonight Show 22 times with Johnny. I always felt, I don't know if I told this to you, I felt that we were not respected. You have Donnie Most was third tier actor on Happy Days. I'm not knocking the fact, but they'd say, ladies and gentlemen, Donnie Most, and he'd come out and he'd sit down and talk to Johnny, right? Because he was on Happy Days. Or a singer would come out and sing a cover song and then sit down. A comic would come on at the end and do 5 minutes. And we were so excited if we got a thumbs up or we were invited to sit down.
Right.
To me, that's not really respect. Like, and we're so excited. I got to sit down the first time. You showed up. You did the most.
Right.
You had to make millions of people laugh. You are the show closer, and we're lucky if we get to sit down.
No, you're absolutely right, man. We don't get, and especially like you said, it hurts like when our own do it. And I've listened to I just want to say I was trying to come this weekend because I wanted to talk to Paulie because he too, I mean, life starts kicking our ass, and to find the A, be relevant, B, try to keep your morale, especially the way everyone's looking at you. And then life, we're the ones that have to go out and be funny. Like acting's easy, in my opinion. Acting's easy to go out there, but you're forced to be funny when you're dealing with real life situations, whether it's your family, where there's quarrels in there, especially when, I don't have to tell you guys, this one gets divorced, this one dies. Then all of a sudden this whole element changes. Then you're like, whoa, I thought we were close. And then this whole thing, and then money and all that. So
he's saying, how do you feel like, if you're going through personal stuff in your normal life, and then you go out on stage with the audience? For me personally, it saves my life. Like the stuff with my family,
you're right,
and my mom and all that shit. Like being out on that stage relaxes me. It totally saves me. Yeah,
because you have to be in the moment, and the rest of the world doesn't exist. And to find, I always say, because I've dealt with mental health, and we all deal with our family. He just said it perfectly.
Yep.
It does save life. I always say, if I don't laugh, I promise you, I'd be crying. And there is, you look at the two masks of theater, comedy and tragedy. Yeah. It's just an upside down smile. It really is, and it's so close.
And then also, in a way, it's very important what we do, because in a way we are doctors to the people that are actually physically in the audience, because everyone's life is exactly like our lives, meaning they just lost their parents, or someone got killed in a car accident. This person has cancer. That's right. And they come to the show to forget about it. And for that hour that we're on stage, we let it loose and they forget about it. I mean, the people that left my show in Naples this weekend, they were having so much fun. And it just made me feel so good that I was able to do that. It's in a way, it's a little selfish because you're giving to them, but you're also giving to yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
mean, it's a big emotional, Steve Simone, our best friend, he's, the same thing. Like, I'm never going to stop. I'll never stop doing stand-up.
No, either will I. There's a story, Blake Edwards. I got lucky enough to work with Blake Edwards, and I told a story in my book that he told me, and I think it's a well-known story, but it speaks to all of us in this business. And he tells a story about this guy that's been going to a psychiatrist because he's suffering from horrible, horrible depression. And he's been going for months and months, and it's not working. And then he comes in for the final he doesn't know it's a final appointment, but he comes into this appointment and he collapses on the floor in the fetal position, and he's just crying, and he's going, "Doctor, I appreciate what you've been trying to do, but it's not going to happen. I'm going to go home and I'm going to end it. I'm just going to end it." And I know you've tried talking. It hasn't worked. You've tried medication. It hasn't worked. You've tried hypnosis. It hasn't worked. I just want to thank you and say goodbye. And the doctor says, "Please give me one more chance. Give me one more chance." I know this sounds crazy. I know this sounds corny, but they say that laughter is the best medicine. And there is a circus in town. And in the circus, there's Baffa the Clown. And Baffa the Clown is known worldwide for being able to cut through anything and make anybody laugh. And when you laugh, he has saved lives. People have almost died laughing because you cannot not laugh at Baffa the Clown. I have 2 tickets to the circus tonight. Please survive until tonight and come and see Baffa. And the guy's lying there and tears are coming down his face. And he sits up and he looks at the doctor and he goes, "Doctor, I am Baffa."
Oh, wow. I never heard that one before, dude.
But it's kind of speaks to who we are.
What happened at the end? Did the guy kill himself? No. Off of the clown. No? I don't know. So I just stopped by because I was next door doing the ridiculousness show for MTV, and I was so fucked up. I said, I put in the GPS. I'm like, do I have an appointment with Howie Mandel because you're at? And I pull up next to you, and you're right next to ridiculousness.
Yeah, I've gone
same
next door and
studio.
done it. Yeah, we're all the same
I love
place.
that show. I love
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
show. I was always envious.
guy-
That's one of those like, man, I wish I was on there, but I don't think I'm relevant for that show.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, you want to
Hit
do
them
it?
up. Hit them up.
Next time
They
tell
need
me when
guests.
you're in town. They need guests.
They need guests.
I'll hit him up.
Tell
I
me
want
what time
to
you're
see your
out.
episode. I want to see your episode.
Yeah.
You just taped it?
My dog stole the show.
Did he?
Buster.
He's got here. Look.
Yeah, I brought my dog Buster. Buster.
How old's Buster?
Yeah. He's like 3.5.
Oh, so he's still
He's a
baby. He's
big
still got
dog.
some time to go up, tear things up.
But, hey, it was great seeing you. I
You
wanted
too.
to stop by and say hi.
Hi.
You too.
because
I
I
won't
needed-
keep you much. I've kept you long enough.
Yeah, hang on.
Okay, I love you, Jim.
Hey.
You can text me if you want me to do your show.
I would love
So-
that. I would love that,
Just did.
Paulie.
Oh, yeah, I just
He
did it.
he was
I
just
did
on.
the show. I wasn't. Maybe I'm like Boffo the Clown. You don't know. I could
You don't
be
know.
Boffo.
We don't know how this ends.
My people.
Hey,
That's
dude.
true. That's true.
Hey, dude, every time I see Howie Mandel, I think about the fucking scene I did with him in Saint Elsewhere. It
He was in Saint
fucking
Elsewhere.
Awesome.
Wow,
It was
that was
awesome.
so long
It was
ago,
like
dude. You're like a
Yeah, he was in
baby.
there too.
He was a
And a
baby.
really good actor.
It was
Yeah.
fucking awesome. It was a great, great dramatic. I love that show.
It was
That was
fun.
great. Do you miss doing drama?
I do. Oh, look who else is here. Oh, wait, I'll be with you guys in a
Do
minute.
you miss doing drama?
I miss acting. I miss doing
Yeah.
anything.
We gotta do some more
We'll
acting.
do acting.
All right. I love
Right,
you, brother.
Paulie, I love you
Have
too,
fun.
man.
Fifth Street. Fifth Street.
Fifth Street.
It's the
Yes.
best.
Fifth Avenue. I'll see you there next time.
Bye.
I don't know what that means.
I know what it means. We got cold.
All that matters.
We're street kids. I won't keep you much longer. This has been an absolute pleasure, an awesome surprise. I can't thank you enough for hanging
Thank you,
out,
buddy.
Howie.
My pleasure, buddy.
People know where to find you. They know where to find you. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna-
HowieMandel.com. Watch my
Yeah.
podcast, Howie Mandel Does Stuff. I do it with my daughter. You got to come on.
I would love
You
that.
Come and do
Anytime.
Okay, I'll arrange it.
Much love to you and your family and everyone around you, and thank you for all you've done. I learned something from this podcast. I was inspired by you big time, and I completely forgot about Make Me Laugh. And I remember now you brought me right back to the living room watching that moment, and that changed my life to the woman that I'm married to. The reason we got married is because I did a Make Me Laugh contest. And I remember the way, I swear on my life. And I said, I'm going to get that mic. And I did a little kid and a little grandma voice because I now remember the voices you would go on and the what. So Howie Mandel, thank you for my marriage. I'll leave you with that.
Well, thank you for all the laughs and thank you just for being you, buddy.
You're
I'll
a
see you
beautiful
soon.
person. Have a good one. Thank you, Howie.
Bye.
Howie Mandel, everybody. An absolute pleasure. And a surprise guest of Pauly Shore. Didn't see that coming. And that was just absolutely incredible. More than what I anticipated. And we'll just leave it at, it's amazing. I remember being young and I remember watching television with almost like my second mom. Mary was like my second mom in Valley Stream, New York. And we would watch Make Me Laugh. And nobody, and I mean nobody, was funnier than Howie Mandel. When Howie Mandel would come, we would sit there and go, "Oh, he's gonna break him. He's the only way. Like if the other comedians couldn't break him, Howie Mandel was gonna break him." And he broke him. And literally, when he was talking about it, it reminded me. That's how it sparked at that moment. Oh my God. That's where I got those characters from. Like, that's where I started acting that way. I never realized Howie Mandel is a huge influence in my life until this podcast just now. That completely blew me away and will continue to blow me away as the rest of this day carries on. I want to thank you all for tuning in today. And just remember, laughter is the greatest medicine of all. You see Howie Mandel has made people laugh for generations. Pauly Shore has made people laugh for generations. I do my best. But always remember, behind the laughter is a human being that has the same struggles, that has the same dynamics, same hurts, same pains. But we enjoy coming out there and bringing the laughter and the healing. Because to me, it's still the greatest things that heal in life outside of faith and spirituality and is laughter. Laughter and music. So as this world gets crazier and crazier, and it will, this year's going to get crazy, tune out and zone on the healing things rather than looking on at things that make you angry and piss you off, and your energy is focused on what happens if this and what happens if that and this thing and I hate that. Focus on the beauty that will help build inside, the things that will make you laugh and heal. And I got a little both of that today from Howie Mandel and Pauly Shore. So thanks for hanging out in the Breuniverse, and we'll see you next week.
Take a look around and what do you see? Lock the date down tonight, we're making history.
Hey, this is Jim Breuer, and I got my own Patreon page, and hopefully you'll check it out. Live comedy concert streamed once a month. Early access to the Breuniverse podcast every single week, and have bonus footage and bonus segments. I promise you I'm not going to let you down. Go check out my official Jim Breuer Patreon page, and I'll see you there.